Hello, welcome to this short video helping you create a cracking CV. I'm Caroline, I work for an organisation called HeppSY and we work with your school or college to help you explore all the options open to you, including higher education. And I'm going to be sharing top tips with you today in creating a CV that's suitable for part-time jobs, volunteering or apprenticeships. So what is a CV? You might have heard that word before, but might not be too sure what it really means. And actually the initials are Latin and stand for curriculum vitae. And the definition is a brief account of a person's education, qualifications and previous occupations, typically sent as a job application. I encourage you to think about is a CV being like a snapshot of you, like the outline image to help the reader get a picture of you and your skills and your qualities and what you've done before and what you're hoping to do in the future, just to tell them enough to invite you along to interview, to meet you in person and find out more about you. So it's never going to tell that individual absolutely everything about you, but it can be a great starting point. So where do you start? You might not have written a CV before, and it can be difficult writing about yourself, can't it? Especially if you've not had a job before. How do you fill that blank page? But what I'd really encourage you to think about is to be able to focus on those unique things about yourself. Focus on you as an individual and what makes you a good potential candidate. Is that about some of the qualifications you've got? Is that your strong interest in the area that you're applying for? Is that how friendly and personable you are? So actually chatting with your friends and your teachers and getting that clear picture of what is special about me that I can share with this employer or this reader of the CV can be a great place to start. And trying to be true to yourself. Don't ever lie on your CV. It may be found out in future. You don't have to overinflate the truth, but show all those different things you've done and how it can be relevant to what the opportunity is you're applying for. When might you use a CV? As we've said, might be applying for a job, full-time or part-time, either now or in the future. Might be when you're applying for, if you apply for an apprenticeship. Occasionally it's used when you're applying for courses, but most usually they'll go with an application form or the UCAS form with the example of university courses. Also when you're applying for volunteering or work experience. This could be when you see an opportunity advertised and you apply to that opportunity, or it could be when you're applying speculatively. So you might have seen a charity that you really want to volunteer at and just be contacting them to find out about opportunities. You could then share your CV. Can also be a great exercise to help you keep a record of your achievements and feel positive about yourself and what you have to offer. It's never going to be a finished document. It is always going to be shaping and developing depending on what you do next. So having a CV is a starting point when you leave school or college can be really useful, and then it's that document to add to and develop in the future. When you use it for an application, it would usually be sent with a covering letter which would share why you're most interested in that specific opportunity and picking out key elements from your CV. But for today's video we're just going to focus on the CV element. So what should a CV include? I'm going to talk through each of these different sections. Some things are essential, some things might be optional, but an employer would expect to see those personal details on your CV to make sure they can get in contact with you, hopefully to offer you an interview, your key skills and evidence of those, what education and qualifications you've done previously and are doing now, any work experience you've been involved with, what interests and hobbies you have, any achievements linked with those. And finally, your references. So that could be someone that can be contacted to confirm that what is on your CV is true and accurate. So if you're just leaving school or college, that's very likely to be a tutor or a teacher that you trust and that knows you well. And you might combine that with a previous employer if you do have one. So thinking about the top section then, you're going to be sharing your personal details at the top of your CV. Take a look at this example that Mohammed has written on his CV and have a think about what could be improved about the way he's presented his personal details. Have a think for a moment. Okay, so we can see he's picked up a few errors here and not quite creating that professional impression you'd hope for. Firstly, he's used a shortened version of his name. So most usually I'd recommend to use your full name when it's for a job application, just to make it a more formal application. He's missed out a few capital letters, such as in the street address, and he's got his postcode too far along, so making sure things are clearly presented, lined up nicely, and usually in a format such as Arial or Calibri that comes across as really professional. And hopefully the obvious one you've picked up there is his email address. It might be an email that's fine to use with his friends, but not appropriate for a job application. So it would be a better idea just to create a whole new email address, and then he can have a personal details section that looks like this to share as part of his CV. Following on from that, you may have a section about your key skills. This isn't an absolute essential, but can be something really useful and can help target your application, your CV, to those roles that you're going for. So in the example of a student here that's applying for a voluntary role at an animal shelter, she's had a look at the job advert and picked out and thought about what are going to be the key skills that the individual at the animal shelter is going to be looking for in the person to fulfil this role. So she's picked out 3 in particular: the practical animal care skills, written communication, and health and safety guidelines. And then rather than just popping that down as a claim, next to each one she has put down evidence of how she's shown that. So for example, that she's cared for dogs and rabbits from a young age to show the animal care skills, and that she's predicted a grade 6 in her English GCSE to show written communication skills. And you could do the same for the different roles you're applying for. Have a think about what's going to be most important and try to pick out some of those skills in your skills section or throughout your CV. Key part of your CV following on from that is going to be showcasing your education and qualifications. So in each section going through your CV, do start with now and work backwards. So for example, if you're at college or sixth form currently, you'd put that section first. In this example here, you can see they've got a nice clear header with underlining to mark it out. They've got the name of the school and the dates that they attended. And they've included a short description under that. So it's not essential to list every single one of your GCSEs, but I'd recommend picking out a few that might be the core GCSEs or ones that are particularly relevant to the role or you really enjoy, and mention something about your predicted grades or any grades that you've already achieved. Also got space to comment on something that's specifically relevant. So in this instance, they've mentioned about something that they've gained from this period of remote study because they felt that was particularly useful to the role. Equally, you might mention any particular achievements through school or anything that you're really proud of, but keeping it brief and to the point. Following on from that, you'd usually have a section about work experience. You might adjust the order here. You might have work experience before education if you feel it's most relevant. It's not about strict rules, but about getting all those key features down. So for work experience, I'd really encourage you to think broadly here. Especially this year, you might be feeling that you've not done as much work experience as you hoped for. You know, maybe you were planning to do a summer job, but that just didn't happen. Or maybe you had work experience booked in for year 10, but that wasn't possible due to the pandemic. So think outside the box, think about using the things that you have done. So your work experience section could include part-time jobs, could include any virtual experience you've done or employer insights you've been a part of, any trips or visits you went on previously. It might include things like babysitting or care for relatives that you've done, or responsibilities that you've had linked with activities outside of school or college. So for example, if you're part of a football team, but you spend time every week teaching and supporting some of the younger members of that team, that is a form of work experience. So get it down in that work experience section. I've got some quick examples here for two different students. So the first one here, who had a retail role recently, so they've had a nice clear header showing what role they did and the dates and where it was. Then underneath that you've got a description, so they're providing an overview of the role and showcasing how they did that well and what skills they gained from it. Working closely in a team, my role includes providing friendly customer service, accurate cash handling, and working quickly to keep shelves stocked, encourage customers to take advantage of promotions, and resolve any complaints with professionalism. Second example for you here, one that's not a formal paid job, but a role of a carer for a relative. This individual has said, I provide regular support for my elderly grandparent who is physically disabled. This has included collecting shopping efficiently, helping with household tasks, and providing emotional support. This has developed my interpersonal skills and empathy. So you see how each writer there has used what it is they have done and emphasised their skills from it, but described it clearly and succinctly. Towards the end of your CV, it's likely you'll have a section about your interests and achievements. And this could be anything that you like to do outside of school or college, or things that you've done as part of extracurricular activities or clubs in the past. And I'd really encourage you here to think about the fact that all your interests can help develop your skills and showcase something about you. And it could be a talking point to interview, for example, if you share similar interests. You might particularly choose activities that do so show some commitment, or that you've taken on some responsibility. So it might be some sports that you've been involved in, some animals that you care for, games that you like to play that you're involved in, showing that breadth of interest that you have. Could be in school or out of school. And if there is a link to the job role, do make the most of that. You can see in this example here, the writer has put, I follow fashion blogs, keep up to speed with trends. This would help when giving styling advice to customers. At the final part of your CV, you'd mention references. So as I said before, this would be the details of one or two people that can be contacted to confirm what is on your CV is true and accurate. Check their permission first of all to pop their details down, or you can always put available on request if they would prefer that. And it should be someone from an educational institution or from a hobbies or activities or work experience, but not a family member or just a friend. So top tips then. Hopefully all these ideas have helped you to get started with your CV. So number one, be true to you. It's not about lying. It's not about pretending to be something you've not. Show those unique things about you that can be valuable to that potential employer. Do target your CV to whatever role that you're going for. And you might do that by linking the skills that are needed for that role. Try to provide evidence of your skills, so back up any claims with that evidence of how you've shown that skill. And especially this year, do use whatever experience and interest you have. Something doesn't have to be a paid formal job to go on your CV. You can use all those different experiences. And check again. Do get a teacher or a careers advisor or a family member to check your CV for you, just so you don't miss any spelling mistakes or format mistakes, anything that could be improved. Get that advice off other people to make sure your CV is a document you can be really proud of. I hope those tips have been useful to you. If you've got further questions from today, either about CVs or about anything to do with your next steps or higher education, you can reach us at HeppSY.org/chat. And I've popped down 3 websites there that have further examples of CVs and guidance around CVs including the Barclays Life Skills website that does have a CV builder tool on it as well that could be particularly useful. Good luck with your CVs and good luck with your next steps.